Reddit Ask Me Anything. I was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. Ask me anything. I also posted in another Ask Me Anything sub. I hope that's not a problem. Last year I went to therapy because of some issues I've had with family and quitting my job. I didn't know what to do next and felt lost. While those issues were resolved rather quickly, my therapist diagnosed me with narcissistic personality disorder, which made me stay in therapy much longer than I expected. I wasn't happy about that at first, but I started learning more and more about myself, and to be honest, it wasn't a huge surprise to me, because I've already felt that there was something different about me. I learned to recognize my thinking patterns and my behavior, and also how to correct them sometimes. I've noticed that there is a lot of misinformation out there about NPD, and I'm here to offer some insights to those interested. Ask me anything. Are you in or have you ever been in a long-term relationship, and if so, how do you feel your recent diagnosis has impacted your romantic life? I've been together with my current partner for more than 8 years now. Before that, I used to leave my partners after usually 3-5 months because it wasn't the perfect relationship that I wanted. My current relationship isn't perfect either. It's far from that, which makes it difficult for me. But my partner understands me and I love them dearly. I know how valuable that is. My diagnosis has impacted my romantic life because it helped my partner understand me better. It also helped myself understanding my thought pattern and behavior. It's now easier for me to see when I'm being irrational. I learned to use cognitive empathy because I lack emotional empathy. I apologize more often when I'm wrong. I recognize it more often when I'm in the wrong. And I word my needs in our relationship differently. Instead of simply saying you do this, I don't like it, I try to explain how it makes me feel and why I'm not happy with something. I try to give my partner the feeling that they're great the way they are. That it's my idealization that makes it so difficult for us. Thanks for your question. I have antisocial personality disorder. I've never experienced love. How would you describe your love? Is it comparable to the love that people without PDs experience? I have no idea if it's similar to the love that other people are feeling. I think I may be feeling love, but kind of numbed, if you know what I mean. I think it's a bit difficult that you ask me, because I have ASPD traits. I'm not fully diagnosed with it, but I checked a few marks because of my criminal youth, etc. You know, those two disorders can sometimes overlap. It's going to sound a bit stupid, but I know that I loved my dog more than anything in the world, and when she passed, my heart was broken and I could feel this pain in my chest. I loved being around her. I'd say that's love. I love my family, but I'm less affectionate than others. I don't know if I ever truly felt romantic love. It often just feels like I enjoy being with them and I like them, but I've gotten used to them being around. It's really difficult to describe. I would say I love my partner. I'm just not sure what exactly that means. Hope you're doing okay with your disorder. I know you guys are dealing with just as much stigma as we are. I'm glad therapy worked out for you. What's been the most surprising self-realization or behavior pattern that you've begun to recognize? I realize that I'm setting myself up for failure by having extremely high expectations of myself. Of course, I can't be good enough for myself, when good enough means to be extraordinary. Of course, I don't have a close connection to any of my friends. If I keep looking for the perfect friendship, it seems so obvious. But that's what surprised me the most. The reason I was always spiraling down this pit of despair whenever I didn't match the perfect version of myself was because it's just not achievable. Whenever I finally reach that goal, I immediately tell myself that's not good enough. You can do more. I can achieve everything I want. But it just feels like every achievement is being swallowed by this void when it comes to behavior pattern. I've realized that I'm completely isolating myself whenever I failed to achieve something, because I couldn't let anybody see that I'm currently struggling. Every time I didn't pass an exam or something like that, I just went no contact with everybody for like a week and then pretended that nothing ever happened. You'd probably think it gets better after realizing that, but unfortunately it isn't. I can recognize it, but I can't change the way I'm feeling about it. Has there ever been a satisfactory moment in your life when you have felt you met an expectation? How long have you felt this way regarding yourself? Not really, no. I felt like I'm doing great for a few months at my old job, but started to become unsatisfied once again. It's just not the job I've always wanted to be doing and it wasn't good enough. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I'd say I've felt this way since puberty, I think. Maybe a bit longer than that. This may be a dumb question, but what are some of the behaviors that you catch yourself doing and try to correct? Is there any specific thing or series of events in your life that you think may have impacted and caused this disorder? It's not a dumb question. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about this and share my experience. I think I've already mentioned a few in comments to the other questions. The one that I'm really actively trying to correct is my lack of empathy. I learned how to use cognitive empathy instead and I'm trying to apply it. It doesn't always work and sometimes I simply don't want to apply it. Depends on the person. But it helped a lot with my loved ones, especially my family who's been struggling with mental health themselves. I honestly don't know. I don't think that I had a particularly bad childhood or anything like that. It wasn't great, but you'd think there was some massive trauma behind all that. But I can't say there was. My parents got divorced when I was a child and it got quite ugly. Both of them used to wake me up in the middle of the night to make me a witness to how one of them is treating the other one right now. I was sleeping and they'd turn on the lights and yell, "Listen to how your mother/father is talking to me right now. Did you hear what he just said to me?" Every other night. That was quite unpleasant. And when I moved away with my mum, she used to make me believe that it was all my dad's fault, which caused me to lose contact to my dad and my brother for 4 years. I lost all my friends because we moved. Huge part of my family and I was really isolated. I sat in my room most of the time and daydreamed about meeting my favorite bands or becoming a movie director. Something like that. My grades got bad and I started being a little outcast and doing minor criminal things here and there. I also was bullied a lot for a while. But I'd say all of that is nothing too unusual. BTW, my mum apologized for everything she's done and I know now that she did what she did because she was deeply hurt and suffered from mental health issues. I forgave her. I also remember being overly praised whenever I did something creative or passed a test with good grades or for being smart. My parents always acted as if I was the next Stephen King for writing a short story for school. But I got nothing but contempt whenever I wasn't feeling well or not doing well. I honestly think that this might have played a huge role. What do you want people to know about this diagnosis? How would you say can a person deal with someone with this diagnosis? I want people to know that it's a mental health disorder, that the people who are diagnosed with it are suffering from. It's not somebody that you can paint as the devil, because they aren't necessarily bad people just because of their diagnosis. There are a-holes with NPD, but there are also a-holes without NPD. I'd want people to know that their comments can be hurtful and harmful, because people with NPD will less likely seek help when they're being antagonized. I think what people could do is listen and try to understand and empathize. I know that we're wired differently. I know that we can be manipulative and do bad things, but we're not evil per se and we're still human. Try treating us like humans. Please stop reading online articles about this diagnosis and start reading scientific papers about it. If you know somebody with NPD, try not to make it seem like they're wrong for who they are, but that they have an issue like everybody else with mental health problems. Don't push them into therapy just like you wouldn't push somebody with depression or any other mental health issue. If somebody is abusive towards you, walk away. Doesn't matter if they suffer from NPD or not. I think that should go without saying. But if your parent, sibling or partner suffers from NPD and you'd like to stay with them and deal with them, just try to listen and understand. Thanks for this question. Good point. I think it's indeed hard to decide whether the person is an a-hole or impacted by a mental illness and in their basic mind a nice person. Really needs an open mind and commitment to look behind that. Applies to the most mental illnesses, I would say. Thanks for answering. Has anyone in your life before now called you a narcissist or accused you of being manipulative or selfish? I've never in my life been called a narcissist. I've been called selfish once or twice I think, which was many years ago. What I've heard quite often is people calling me cold because they catch me not reacting to some sad story or life event of others. That's me being sloppy, to be honest. That's why I'm so against the armchair psychology on the internet. People that are called narcissistic are in most cases not suffering from NPD. I've said it before in a different comment, but what people are recognizing in others is abuse and selfishness. They will not recognize NPD. That's extremely unlikely, not just because it's extremely rare, 0.1% of the population according to my psychologist, but also because there is no guide on how to spot a narcissist. It just simply doesn't exist, and people who've encountered one will most likely not know. Nobody around me knows except for my partner, whom I've told my diagnosis. Many have called Donald Trump narcissistic. Do you have any insights? I don't know Trump in person and I'm not a mental health professional. On top of that, it's highly unethical for anybody to attempt and diagnose somebody from afar like that, but I personally think that Trump is somebody who is used to getting what he wants. He's definitely spoiled. I don't think he knows how to handle not getting what he wants, because he simply never had to deal with it. Being spoiled doesn't make somebody having NPD. Just because he claims to have unmatched wisdom, for example, does that mean that he's actually feeling that way? Or couldn't it also mean that Trump at some point in his life heard that being confident makes other people believe in what you say and taking it too far? We can't look inside this person's head. That's why it's so difficult to say. Everybody who claims to know is a moron, in my opinion. There is no way you could know as somebody who doesn't personally know him and didn't sit down with him for more than 1 hour. What is your opinion on mental health professionals? In general, I think they are immensely important, but I had my fair share of bad experiences. I've seen two as a child and as a teenager. Both times I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing there and didn't find it helpful or anything. They also didn't diagnose me. Then as an adult I went to 2 others. The first one was an absolute disaster and very incompetent in my opinion. Spent the whole hour staring at me, not saying anything at all. I went a few times and didn't go back. Shortly after that I met my last therapist, who's also a psychologist and specialized in my disorder and other PDs, which I didn't know before seeing him regularly. He was the first one to diagnose me and the first one who applied something else than talk therapy. He was the first one that I've learned to trust and really open up to. We had lots of ups and downs, lots of moments where I left the sessions, but there was something about him that always made me come back. I think very highly of this man and I'm glad that he could help me finally understand what has been causing the issues I've been having in my life. Edit. Forgot a word. How do you feel about comedic representations of NPD in popular media, specifically someone like Dennis Reynolds from Always Sunny? I don't really pay attention to that and I haven't come across any of those representations so far. What I do notice are people genuinely misdiagnosing others and I'm not happy with that. How does the disorder develop? Do you have a genetic disposition? Is it a result of coping in your environment? I've heard that it gets better at a certain age that I haven't reached yet. I'm almost 30 and I heard it's supposed to get better at age 55 or something like that. I don't have a genetic disposition when it comes to NPD. My mother was diagnosed with depression and anxiety disorder when she was my age. I believe it's a result of coping. Yes, that's also what my therapist has told me. Do you have alexithymia with your NPD? Not that I know of, no. My psychologist never mentioned anything like that to me. I read a little bit about it, and wouldn't that mean that I'm unable to feel emotions like happiness or grief? Because I'm very much able to feel those. I can be extremely happy and I can also grieve, even though sometimes I don't feel it. Depends on the situation. You can feel the emotions but you might not recognize them as emotions in the beginning. For example, your chest pain may have been unrecognized grief. Oh, I see. Thanks. I did feel grief in that situation, I think. I cried and hid in my bedroom for a week, not talking to anybody, and whenever I thought about it again, I cried some more. The chest pain was additional to all of that. I think I failed to mention that. As an active redditor from r/ray/narcissists, I do have some questions. I think definitely it's different having NPD from having narcissistic traits, which is mostly what that sub is about. But it makes me wonder, do you get angry easily? Do you often wonder how others are doing or worry about others for their own sake? Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking mad lad. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.